Yeah, if you have a BlackRock ETF, okay, that's prime time. I mean, we have a saying on the team that BlackRock and Vanguard ETFs are the new IBM. And what I mean by that is if you're a 65-year-old financial advisor and you were a broker 30 years ago, it used to be said you could never get fired for buying IBM. Mm-hmm. It's just too good. It's like all American company. No, none of your clients are going to be like, "What did you get me into?" Now you can't get fired for buying a BlackRock or Vanguard ETF. It's too good a deal. It's just too bulletproof. Whereas if you went into some crazy hedge fund and stuff, they make it mad, right? But BlackRock and Vanguard ETF, solid. So once you put it into a BlackRock ETF, it sort of goes into this. It elevates it, I think, for the financial advisors who are like maybe willing to use it as a hedge or an alternative, or they have younger, their clients' kids are into it, and they're like, now I feel comfortable, safe, and willing to do this because I use ETFs in the rest of my portfolio. I trust BlackRock. I certainly don't want to custody it myself. They're going to do it. I feel safe with them. The fee's not that bad. It costs 1 basis point to trade. I think that's very powerful. And so when I come up with the 150 billion, here's the math, right? One is that's about how much gold ETFs have. Two is if you take advisors and wealth managers, they have $30 trillion that they run for the rich boomers of America, basically.
Yeah.
If only 0.5% of that comes over, that is 150 billion. So that's, I think, pretty fair, because I think you have some advisors who might allocate 2%, but then some that just find it to be repelling and do nothing. So I think 0.5 to me seems like a pretty fair number. Even it could be low. That's how I get to the 150 billion over time.
Eric Balchunas believes that a spot Bitcoin ETF is going to bring in $150 billion worth of new capital to Bitcoin in its first 12 months. What's more is that he believes there's a 75% chance that a spot Bitcoin ETF is approved in the next month, with his most likely date being the middle of October. If you don't know who Eric Balchunas is, he's a senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, and he's probably the #1 expert in the world and the most well-connected when it comes to ETFs. Just this week, he did an interview in which he revealed why a BlackRock Bitcoin ETF is such a big deal, why he believes the most likely date for approval this year is in October, and finally why he thinks a spot Bitcoin ETF will bring $150 billion worth of capital in its first 12 months. To understand why this is such a big deal, if you combine all of the current exchange balances of Bitcoin, it totals just under 1.85 million BTC. This equates to $47.5 billion worth, which means Balchunas believes his spot Bitcoin ETF will bring in over 3 times the amount of dollars to Bitcoin than every single exchange holds. Another way of looking at it is Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, with all their massive buys, have only brought in around $4 billion worth of capital to Bitcoin. In other terms, it's predicted a spot Bitcoin ETF will bring in over 37 more Michael Saylors, which is just insane. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Eric speaks on the chances of a spot Ethereum ETF and what that could look like. Also guys, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto world, I send out a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter that covers expert predictions, on-chain data breakdowns, and breaking news, all for free. Click the first link in the description, enter your email, and join over 10,000 others to become a better crypto investor right now. Now here's Eric Balchunas with his forecast.
GBTC has 20 billion, so I think you could, let's just say that moves over instantly. That's where I get to the 28 billion pretty soon, because either the people move or it just converts over. And then you get BlackRock, Fidelity, adding to that. And I think also they'll steal some business from the exchanges, frankly. I think like if you're in a crypto exchange and you're charging 30 to 150 basis points per trade, this ETF trading on NYSE at 1 basis point is going to be appealing. So I also think institutions could get into it, especially the one that becomes very liquid, because I wrote a book called The Institutional ETF Toolbox, and institutions don't need ETFs generally. They can get everything on their own in separate accounts for almost cheaper than the ETF, and they like it private. They feel like the ETF's kind of like the dirty public pool down the street. That said, what the ETF does have that even an institution can't resist is liquidity. And it's also anonymity. So if an institution wants to get short or long crypto quickly, it would use this most liquid Bitcoin ETF as a way to put that trade on. We see that happen with GLD all the time. If you look at GLD or SPY, these are things that institutions can get, but the liquidity in them is great because they can go in there with no contracts, anonymous, they don't move the market, and they can just get that into their portfolio quickly. So the most liquid spot Bitcoin ETF, I think, will even draw big fish in. So you add, a lot of that together, and I think you're looking at that much money. Now, let's say there's another FTX, that could delay some of this. But I was pretty impressed at how quickly Bitcoin, how resilient Bitcoin was to FTX. It was in the gutter, both PR and price-wise, for a little bit,
right.
but not that long.
Yeah,
I said, the Bitcoin, even though I don't understand every aspect of it, I respect its resiliency. It just keeps coming back. Yeah, so I got to be honest. I like October, and because I don't know. First of all, it gives the SEC 2 months to work this out, roughly. Mm-hmm. October is when the Bitcoin futures ETF launched. We're also going to have a whole slew of Ether futures ETFs in October.
Right.
As you get closer to Christmas, I think maybe the odds go down a little because holidays hit. October is just a very vibrant month in general. And you've got a slew of deadlines coming up in October. But I sometimes put the deadlines aside, and I think that, because if we're going strictly on deadlines, and they want to punt, the first deadline is ARC in January, final deadline, mm-hmm. where they have to approve or deny. And I don't know if they want to put ARC out first, and that'd be 2 months ahead of anybody else. They would be playing Kingmaker. And I think after BITO, they let BITO out first, like a week before Valkyrie, and BITO has 95% of all the volume and assets. So I don't think they want to play Kingmaker here. So my guess is they're going to scrap the timeline, and we're going to wake up one day and hear, probably going to be a scoop from CoinDesk, or Wall Street Journal or something, or Bloomberg hopefully, that the SEC has decided to say okay to these, and they're going to work it out. They'll launch in 2 weeks. That's my gut. I just don't know if they punt in October and they keep punting and they get to January and they actually deny ARC. I don't know, that makes it feel like just every other denial that's ever existed. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards we're just going to wake up one morning and we're good.
How does this?
I could be wrong. If they approve others and let BlackRock, that would upset them, I think. But as long as they're in the group, their main goal is to be out first. I think their goal is to be one of the ones launched on day one. So as long as that happens, whether it's in October or frankly next year, I'm sure they're fine with that. Now, I think the longer you wait, the longer you get into the situation of what I think also bothers Larry Fink, which is the U.S. is behind the rest of the world in this big time. They've got spot Bitcoin ETFs all over the world, and they work fine, and they have less liquidity from big time market makers like we have here. So if they can work well overseas during a period like FTX, and the percent premiums are pretty tight, I heard behind the scenes that this is a very, very shaky information, but that the SEC said, do not file ETH spot. We're not even ready to don't do that
deal
to
with
us.
it.
Yeah, I still think there's some renegades out there that say, okay, I don't care, I'm going to file it anyway, but I haven't seen an ETH spot. My guess is we'd see Ether spot right after, because if you approved Bitcoin futures and now you're going to approve ETH futures, I would assume ETH would be right after spot down the road. And then you get some that equal weight the two, maybe go between them, and then someone would probably push the envelope and try to package up another cryptocurrency, and on and on. That's why I tell James, who covers this, this is more of his main thing. That get ready, you may become a full-time crypto ETF analyst, because when they first approve them, it's just begun. Yeah. It's going to be this whole evolution, the fee war. It's going to be a lot of things to cover around this. How do they trade? Who's trading them? Who's buying them? Again, you're talking to boomers who probably know Bitcoin more than Ether in terms of the advisors. So again, look, it kind of reminds me of gold and silver, right? A little bit like the iShares Silver Trust, which is the biggest one. I'm looking at the assets now.
Okay.
It has 10 billion. So silver probably has about 15 billion if you add some of the smaller ones. Gold has 10 times that.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. I would say 10 times if I had to ballpark it right now. But
wow.
Again, because I'm wondering, the people who are in the know and are into this stuff, they probably wouldn't use the ETF. So you're wondering how many of the rich boomers and casual people would care as much about Ether as Bitcoin. I think it might be disproportionate to the market cap right now.
So there's Eric Balchunas with his mind-blowing prediction. It's clear that the potential impact of a spot Bitcoin ETF is massive, possibly ushering in a new era of capital influx into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Eric's insights, backed by his profound expertise and connections in the ETF landscape, certainly give us a lot to ponder upon as we approach October. It is truly an exhilarating time to be involved in the crypto space, with possibilities that were once deemed improbable now seeming to be within reach. As Eric mentioned, the implications of a spot Bitcoin ETF could be monumental, dwarfing the investments made by big players such as Michael Saylor. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on a potential spot Bitcoin ETF? Do you think it will be as transformative as Eric predicts? And don't forget, Eric also touched upon the possibilities surrounding a spot Ethereum ETF, which could be another game changer in the crypto world. Before you go, if you found value in this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more expert analysis and predictions in the crypto space. Remember, staying informed is key to making wise investment decisions. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up for my daily crypto newsletter to stay abreast with the latest happenings in the crypto world. With expert predictions and breaking news delivered straight to your inbox, join over 10,000 crypto enthusiasts who are enhancing their investment strategies with our insights. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.